All-Star break is here and in full force. With no games, I guess we'll watch highlights, of course. Jed's on the phone, casting a net real wide to make a deep run and fill fans full of pride. PCA, Tuck, Saya, holy cow. Let's talk more on the setup man right now. That was really dumb, folks, but when there's no games going on, you have to do something to fill the cold open. So here we are. Thank you for joining us on another edition of the Setup Man podcast. The man rolling his eyes next to me, that would be Ty, the Cubs guy, with me again today. We are going to go over some fun stuff today. There's a couple of rumors that just popped up before we hit the record button. We'll cover those. The All-Star game, which was kind of awesome. We're going to talk about that. And then we got some burning questions regarding your Chicago Cubs in the second half. So we will get into all of that. But before we do us a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know what else we're up to, hit that little bell so you get notifications anytime we do anything. And if you're audio only, come on. It's fine. But do us a favor then. Hit that subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also help us out and leave a 5-star review. Okay, Ty, very quickly. We got a lot of Cubs stuff to get to, but let's quick talk about the All-Star game. So technically, it ended in a tie, but instead of extra innings with ghost runners and whatever else, a little tiny home run derby. And I got to say, I dug it. I really was into it. Ty, what were your thoughts on the old-fashioned swing-off to end the All-Star game?
It was fantastic. And I know they couldn't do, the true superstars of the game that many people probably wanted because those guys were already leaving. But realistically, it provided a new sort of, I guess, maybe a glimpse behind the curtain of where the MLB is going. And it's not saying that this is going to be a part of the games moving forward, but you saw it throughout the entirety of the weekend. I mean, from Pat McAfee being on there introducing everybody,
that was awesome.
To, I know they've done the in-game interviews, but they really, really, really made it clear that they were focusing on like honoring some of the great players in the game, like Clayton Kershaw, Freddie Freeman, of course. So those sorts of things I know are pretty normal. But I thought like the Jack Wilson and Jacob Wilson interview was so cool and so different. Unfortunately, in the earlier innings, there wasn't a lot of action. So those interviews were pretty quick, which was the only unfortunate part. But at the same time, too, like those players probably are just like, hey, I just really want to be on the field and enjoy myself. But for the AL to come back the way they did, the MLB was probably sitting there saying, oh my gosh, this might actually happen. Because when it was 6-0, it's like, okay, well, this is over with. And I had completely forgot that they had announced that they were doing something like this.
Same.
And it was funny. They just literally rolled it out like it was like college baseball or high school baseball at the end of practice, where it's just like, boys had a great week, winning a couple games, winning a couple series, and then get to go on the field and try to hit homers in front of your buddies. And I got to give credit to both teams as well, just because they all got out of the dugout. They were all super excited. Hell, Tarek Skubal, who was done in the first, after the first inning, came back out in his street clothes to watch it. So just a really cool sort of different perspective of the game. And I credit the MLB for trying to be a little bit different with what they've done in the past. Again, not drastic changes. I would say the MLB home run or the home run derby at the end was pretty drastic, but it just felt like they were seeing opportunities in front of them. And I felt like they executed them very, very well, especially the Hank Aaron tribute was out of this world. So hats off to you, MLB. I thought you did a fantastic job. And I think I haven't talked to one person that didn't enjoy that game.
Which is kind of nuts. All things, it's an all-star game. I feel like every sport, it's not just baseball, every sport, all we do is complain. We got to fix the all-star game. The all-star game doesn't matter. Last night was just pure entertainment. If you haven't seen it, look up the Hank Aaron tribute. You can find it. I believe Fox had it on their X, Fox on MLB or MLB on Fox or whatever it is on X. It's 2 minutes. It's unbelievable. So if you didn't see it, just brief highlights. So Hank Aaron And the famous video of him hitting at that time the record-breaking home run to hit the all-time home run record, or to take the all-time home record. Instead, they played the video on the field, like you've seen on NBA courts. I'm sure, like they play stuff on the court, and it makes it look like the court's like falling apart or whatever. Really cool stuff. They did that on the baseball field, and then when the video got to the point where Hank Aaron hit the ball, they shot a firework like in its place.
So cool.
It was so cool. It was, and the other thing with the others, so the game in total was 3 hours and 20 minutes. And that was with, they had the stand up to cancer delay. They had the Hank Aaron thing. Like, it was kind of a win for the pitch clock. Like, even games were 3.5 hours, and they were 320 with all that stuff. Awesome. The swing off, if you have not seen this either, take 5 minutes out of your day and watch it. It was crazy. So if you don't know, it just hit me that some of you may not have watched the All-Star game, and I don't blame you, but here's what happened. So the game ends in a tie. Instead of the extra inning rules that you are used to, they go, each league picks 3 guys. They have 3 swings, not outs. They have 3 swings to try and hit a home run. Whoever has the most home runs at the end of the game wins. What, it was drama at its finest. Kyle Schwarber, old friend, 3 home runs, all mammoth shots, because of course that's what he does, to win it for the National League. I have to ask Ty, I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see it, but do you think with all the national attention today and all the buzz, like, oh, baseball's back, like I heard a lot of that today, should we maybe, I'm just asking the question, traditionalists, don't come after me, I'm asking the question, what would you think about using the swing off in the regular season?
No. So
Okay,
let's
next
go to the ABS challenge system.
Oh, yes.
I want to talk about that really quick, and I apologize for yelling at you.
Well, I'm just asking because let's say, even if it's like, and they don't really happen anymore, but what if it's like the 13th, 14th, 15th inning? Those don't really happen anymore with the ghost runner. Wouldn't it be kind of awesome? Well, all of a sudden the Cubs are like, all right, Tuck, Seiya, and pick a third guy. Carson Kelly, if he's hot, PCA, whatever. Like, hey, go win us a game against Arizona, let's say. And it's, Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel, and you hate it. Come on, that's high drama. That's awesome. I'm not saying like right away, but like 15th inning, that would be pretty sweet.
I would also think though that you'd have to like switch up like contracts and other things, because then like, do those home runs count? Do you know, when it comes to wins in the season, making the playoffs, all those certain things. So I don't know. I mean, I love your creative thinking. They'll probably do that with Savannah Bananas, but we'll leave that to them. I do want to just ask you really quick, what do you think of the ABS challenge system?
Loved it. I loved it in spring training. Look, I get we want the human element. I get all that. I've made this point on this show before. But when something is egregious, how many times during the game have you and I just texted like, what in the world is that call?
Absolutely.
Now all you do is just tap the head, tap the helmet, whatever. And all of a sudden you have the correct call and this is done. And you still have the human element. It takes 5 seconds and you get the things right. Wouldn't you want to just get it right with replay and everything else? You have the access to the technology. Why not just get it right? But what did you think about it? I loved it.
I loved it too. And look, the game is going that direction of let's make this game. Let's allow replay to be a big part of the game. It's the same in football. It's the same in basketball. Pretty much all sports at this point. Soccer, I know it's huge when it comes to like offsides and those sorts of things. And those are epic calls on the scoreboards. And we have to remember, folks, that this is an entertainment business. And you could tell the players were just really thrown off when those strike calls were made. I mean, heck, the last inning there with Edwin Diaz, I can't remember who was hitting at the plate, but he ended up, the inning ended in the ninth after they had given up the game tying run on an ABS challenge. Yeah. So these sorts of things are pretty epic. It's going to be pretty epic when it comes to baseball, and there's a big call in a game versus, playoffs, all these sorts of things. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, I enjoyed it, and I hope that's the furthest we go when it comes to what we are doing with umpires and, of course, their human element of the game, because I do believe that still needs to be a part of it. But those are my takeaways from the game. So
Yeah, and we've probably spent way too much time on the All-Star game because these nice people in Setup Nation are here for Cubs news. So before we get into the meat and what we're doing on the show today, there were a couple rumors I just want to quick throw out there. One is more of a fun rumor. And, well, I guess it's not a rumor because this is a report, and I'm reading this from, this is Dugout Forever on Instagram, so shout out to them. But the report is from SNY's Andy Martino. Basically, the rumor is that the Mets, the beloved New York Mets, tried to trade the Cubs back PCA. Basically, they tried to reacquire PCA. And the rumor was that the Mets offered us Pete Alonzo for Pete Crow Armstrong. Don't worry, folks. Apparently, according to reports and with, quote, league sources with direct knowledge of the situation, the call was made, the conversation was brief, and the answer was no. So the Cubs knew what they had all along. But just kind of a fun sliding doors moment of there was an opportunity, or maybe not even an opportunity because it doesn't sound like the Cubs entertained it, but there was a moment in time where Pete Alonso could have been a Cub and PCA could have been back in Queens.
that would have been strange. That
It
would
would
have
have
been
been,
weird. Because then
yeah.
Belly would have been in center. Pete, of course, over at first. We would have never gotten Bush.
Yeah.
And Seiya probably, has that little bit more protection with Alonzo, either, before him or after him. Was the team at the time a playoff level squad? Obviously, they had some certain runs. 2024 more, I would say in that situation more relevant. But yeah, Pete at the time when he first came up, people were all over him, being like, "This guy is not a number one prospect. He just doesn't have it." And he made the necessary swing changes, and obviously, look where he's at now. I'll be honest with you. I'm glad we never made that trade.
Yeah. Well, it's my
just
fault.
speaking probably for a few people, but it would have been fun at the time. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong; it would have been a big name. That was a name that a lot of people had tied to the Cubs for
Yeah.
quite some time. So,
And just to clarify, because I did a horrible job reporting this. So this was in 2023. So this would
yes,
have been the year where Belly got hot in July and we kind of made that push. And then we collapsed in Arizona about 7 times, it felt like.
yep,
So Pete didn't even debut yet, but I believe his minor league, he was just kind of coming up through the system, coming off that injury. But kind of a weird, like, if they had Pete Alonso, do they make the playoffs that year? Does it matter
yeah,
ultimately?
that's true. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, because Pete debuted in
Was it end of 24?
2023, I think,
Or
or
no, he debuted under Ross.
I
So
was
that
going to
was
say, so yes. So back to my point though, like those sorts of things, like he didn't have it at that moment,
yeah.
and he needed to make really necessary, adjustments as soon as he could. But yeah, it's quite a rumor or quite a report that's come out. So
Yeah, just a
interesting.
fun thing I wanted to throw in, take 2 seconds to talk about. Okay. The bigger news from today, the Chicago Sun-Times asked beloved right fielder, all-star right fielder Kyle Tucker, what he thought about maybe signing long-term with the Chicago Cubs. And his quote, and I quote, "Yeah, why not? We'll see what happens this year and beyond that. They've been very open with me and other players. We have a really good environment, not just in the clubhouse, but also in the front office, coaching staff, and everything. We've got a good group over there." And for what it's worth, again, take this with a grain of salt, but his Instagram profile picture went from just a generic picture of Kyle Tucker to him in a Cubs uniform. Take that for what it's worth. He's enjoying his time here. So,
Yes,
Ty,
and his foundation as well as I've seen posts about that. He's really taken advantage of, not taken advantage of. That sounds awful, but has implemented himself in the community. So it's been cool.
yeah. Well, so I was going to save this for the middle section, but we're here. We're talking about him. Let's just kind of jump on this now. Do you think there was some whispers earlier in the season about Kyle Tucker potentially getting that extension done around the All-Star break? Well, if my calendar's right, we're here. So do you think, and I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, who knows? Maybe it will. Pass and will report it and we'll all lose our minds. And then we'll do a live and, it'll be fun. But do you still think, or have you ever thought that an extension was getting done in season Where's your confidence level at that he'll resign? Like, how are you feeling about the whole Kyle Tucker contract situation?
What I've appreciated is that when all the extend Kyle Tucker things, and I was one of the people, of course, that said to extend him as absolutely fast as possible and be great for the city of Chicago, great for the fans, and great for the organization, because now you have basically a superstar, and then now we've seen our other superstar in center field. So you have these two players that you can use sort of as a, marketing tool, like you did with Brizzo for a while, right? And you can use that as, what they did with Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo. Um, is that something that I see happening here now before the end of the season? No.
Yeah, agreed.
I want to say there's a particular reason why. I'm totally going off a feel here. I just think that the organization right now is so focused on what they're going to do after the next 14, or sorry, in the next when it starts Friday, 14 days until the trade deadline,
Yeah,
and it's going to be all in focus on that. Contracts could be brought over from other teams that could hinder sort of their budget here for the rest of the year, and what could possibly be added on for the following year, and all those numbers then have to be calculated for what Tucker's going to get. It's just it's a stressful situation, and I just don't think that Kyle Tucker, with how nonchalant he is, we don't really understand really where his head's at, because he says comments like this pretty frequently, is like, yeah, no, I'd love to play here. It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, well, that really doesn't do much for us. But if you look at what he's done this year, I mean, realistically, so he's a player that's going to be getting north of 400, probably north of 500 in free agency.
yeah,
And I mean, look, like, why not just take it to free agency? Then you have a bidding war, and then likely, if the Cubs truly want you, they'll pay up. But
yeah,
right now, Cubs have basically all the leverage to offer whatever they want. And if Kyle Tucker thinks he's worth more than what they think Kyle Tucker is worth, sorry, Cubs fans, like, this guy's going to look towards another organization. And it sucks to say that, but at the same time, he has earned that opportunity to look wherever he wants to. I think him getting nominated for the All-Star game was huge,
yeah.
but realistically, so this guy has earned the opportunity to put his name out there. I would just love to see him in blue stripes and Cubby blue for the rest of his career.
Agreed. I don't have any qualms with that. Please be in our right fielder for the next decade. I feel weird. I have no sources. I want to make that clear. I have no sources. I don't know anybody. But I do kind of get this weird gut feeling that they can get this done. Not in season. I don't think it's going to happen in season. But, say, for heaven forbid, they don't make the playoffs, or it's an early exit, or whatever the case may be. And there's time before free agency actually starts. He really seems to be enjoying himself. I don't know, man. Obviously, then you get into the conversation: happiness versus money versus opportunity, like all of that stuff. And him and his wife have to figure out what they want to do with that, and that's obviously their call. I got a weird gut feeling on this, and I don't know that the Ricketts. I know they might be cheap and penny pinchers. I don't think the family is dumb. I do think they know what they're doing. And I do think for them, the investment into a player of his stature, that's a pretty good investment. Think about when I was in Minnesota last week, I saw a ton of Kyle Tucker jerseys. Just imagine the crowd like myself that doesn't want to buy a jersey because he might be gone in 3 months. I would have that, just the merchandise and the billboards and the PR stuff you can do. And Kyle's mentioned it on the show. How many times are these owners and their egos like, I am not cheap, and they do something to prove that they're not cheap, or because they hear all this stuff, they don't want these labels. So everything's pointing to me getting disappointed, but there's just a weird gut feeling I have that it's going to get done.
One other reason why it might get done is when you look at the landscape of the ball club, who realistically do you have to give a huge contract to?
Nobody at the moment. In fact, there was a report, or not a report, I guess it's just facts. After 26, their books are pretty much clean.
Exactly. And are you going to take back Ian Happ? Are you going to take back Seiya Suzuki? I think Seiya Suzuki would be a name that I would love to see back here in Cubby Blue after the fact, because I think he's really starting to find himself this year.
Yeah.
Happer would love to have back in the Cubs uniform, but again, if he has a drop off offensively, like that's not going to be a name that they look back on. PCA doesn't need to be paid for quite some time, even though I've heard obviously there's been rumors about extensions and everything like that. Michael Bush doesn't have to get paid for a while. Nico will have to get paid here in a couple of years. Swanson's fine. Third base is who knows where that's going to be. So that's the question. And then catcher.
Band-Aids.
Yeah, exactly. And then catcher, you're not signing a Miguel Amaya or Carson Kelly to over $120 million extensions. And then starting rotation, Justin Steele is a name that's going to need to get paid here probably fairly soon. That's going to be in extension talks. But again, he just had TJ, maybe Shota. But again, you don't have huge contracts. You have a nice farm system at the moment. There is still there is that opportunity there. So they've set themselves up nice for this opportunity to hopefully bring back Kyle Tucker. But again, if they wait until free agency,
dangerous game,
brother.
Perhaps the most dangerous of games. All right, we've gone 20 minutes here without even getting to the meat and potatoes of what we're doing today. So let's get to that now. So we are entering the quote-unquote second half of the season. There are some question marks for this ball club. There are some key things that need to happen. Ty and I are going to talk about them right now. One of which, you mentioned it, 2 weeks from today is the MLB trade deadline. What are the Cubs' needs? We kind of already know. We've been talking about it for a while. It seems like third base, potentially, but I think more of the focus seems to be on starting pitching and relief pitching. Pitching. Jed has even said that. With third base, like, maybe if there's a deal with a team that has a third baseman for sale, maybe you just take both. But Ty, I want to put you in the GM seat, or I guess Jed Hoyer's seat, which is president of baseball operations. You're Jed Hoyer. Who are you calling? What are you doing? What are your priorities? What should the Cubs' priorities be heading into this next 2-week stretch?
The number one thing, in my opinion, is third base.
Really? Over pitching?
It's not a massive gap. I just personally think that while they have a great offense, it's a position right now that is a rotating door, and I'd like to solidify it as soon as possible. The things that I look at with third base right now is there's sort of a tier system. Okay. So tier one, in my opinion, for teams that are currently, I would say either sellers or on the bubble. So a team like Arizona, which has been in obviously a name for a while here. Eugenio Suarez, who got hit by a pitch last night in the AllStar game. I was texting a bunch of people about it. I was like, this is not good. Thank God hopefully he's fine. It sounds like x-rays were negative. Hopefully he's fine. So I have him in tier one. Tier two is a guy by the name of Michael Garcia. Now, as we go through my three names that I'm looking at, we're looking at possibly moving Shaw out of third base and either looking at a different position in the infield or even maybe possibly more of a bench role or even like a trade piece. Like that's what these types of moves look like. So that's why I think they're going to end up going the more rental route, because obviously they've invested so much in Matt Shaw thus far. But I looked at names like Michael Garcia from the Kansas City Royals, having in my second tier there. A guy who has had a really, really nice year thus far, has a 960 OPS against lefties, 6 doubles, 3 home runs, and a 575 slug. And I think the part that's important here too is you have him until 2029. And then some other names I have on here is like Ryan McMahon and Brian Hayes. But again, names that would require you to look at Matt Shaw and say, what's Matt Shaw's next steps, right? If this is 2023, you ain't worried about these things. Matt Shaw's playing third base. You're moving Christopher Morel around, right? Not moving anybody around. But in this spot, you need something that's going to get you going. So in my personal opinion, tiers 2 and 3 there with those players, not only are just because they're, I would say, not necessarily going to impact the team like Eugenio Suarez would be, but more unlikely, of course, because then Matt Shaw would be likely moved. So I don't know what your thoughts are, but personally for me, I'm looking at third base as the top priority. And then starting pitching is it's pretty much like a 1A, 1B situation for me. But
I think that's fair. For me, I still think the priority should be starting pitching because that's pretty thin. Heaven forbid you lose one more of those guys.
Yeah.
Then woof. Now we're talking. Jordan Wicks just got sent back to AAA again. Ben Brown's been fine at AAA, but he's not going to knock your socks off at this point. And then what? You're relying on flexing or bullpen days? We'll talk about it in a little bit, but even Sunday, they haven't announced a starter yet against Garrett Crochet on Sunday. Like that screams bullpen day unless they make a trade here in the next 48 hours, which I don't see that happening. Maybe, never say never. But for me, I really do think pitching. But again, you're right. It's 1A, 1B. Like, yes, they kind of also need a third baseman because are you really going to roll into October against the Dodgers and Chavez Ravine with John Birdie or Fidel Brujan as your third baseman? I mean, Christ almighty, is that bad? That's a bad situation.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that the Cubs will target a third baseman quicker than they would a starting pitcher based on the fact of teams not wanting to give up starting pitching because starting pitching will be probably the biggest deadline need for most teams? So they'll have the most leverage towards the end to be able to gain the most prospects comparatively to third base. Maybe there's only a select few teams that are truly looking at that because technically right now, if I can think of teams that are making the playoffs that have a legitimate shot, I look at the Cubs, I look at the Yankees. Think about some other names as well. Don't ever count out the Dodgers, especially with what just happened with Max Muncy. But if we look at the other teams here,
I saw a rumor today that said Milwaukee is interested in Eugenio Suarez. That's another, and they got a loaded system. So if they really want Suarez, they can go get him. And he kills the Cubs.
Yeah, so like there is that, like, you know, what are teams going to hold on to longer for, you know, the leverage side of things. So that's why I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, again, you can disagree with people can disagree with me in the comments, and please, folks, we want to see all the comments on this because we've seen a lot of great engagement lately from our fans on just some unbelievable points, paragraphs on paragraphs on paragraphs of information that is, you know, I would say I've been educated a little bit on how good our fans are, but yeah, I don't know, just something I'd throw out there, just considering, like, you know, the situation at hand. But again, who really knows at this point, man? I mean, we already had a trade today with Adam Frazier going to, you know, to Kansas City from Pittsburgh, so it's starting, it's rolling. Here we go.
Yeah, I really don't know what the trade market is up to be honest with you. So could they get a third base? Sure, but I think like Kansas City, that move today, is that a win now move? Not really. It's not like Adam Frazier.
They're on the bubble. Kansas City's on the bubble. Yeah.
So I truthfully don't know if there's going to be moves until the deadline because I don't think teams. There was a report over the weekend that Suarez and Zach Gallen are made available by Arizona. They're only a couple games back. I don't know why they would just be like, "Yep, come get them. We're done." Like that doesn't make sense right this minute. Again, it's Bob Nightingale. He also said the Cubs were going to sign what's his face, Lance Lynn. This all like it's to take it with a grain of salt, all right? Sorry, Bob. It's just them's the facts. So, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a last minute type of thing. So the next 2 weeks it might be kind of brutal. And actually, speaking of third base, very quickly because I do want to come back to this topic, but you mentioned Matt Shaw. Should they just put him back in AAA and we'll see you next spring? Has it come to that point?
Oh, it's done. It's done. I mean, the league has adjusted to him a heck of a lot quicker than I absolutely thought. And I thought when he'd come back that things would change, but obviously not. And everybody knows it at this point, so we don't even need to go through the numbers. I mean, less than a 200 batting average, under a 600 OPS. It's been rough sledding for the kid. I wish him nothing but the best in AAA for the rest of the season. If he isn't moved down and he's in a bench role, does that hinder his development? That is a really good question for Matt Shaw for the future. I just don't see an opportunity for him on the bench right now because even his bat is not really of value on the bench. Like you can put him in the same category offensively as John Birdie and Fidel Brujan, and who would have ever thought that we would do that before the season started?
Offensively, he's worse than Birdie in a lot of categories.
Wild.
Yeah, it just
Wild.
hasn't looked pretty. And I had that in my burning questions, like, should he be demoted? And do you just roll with Birdie and Bruhan short term until the 31st? And yeah, I think that's the answer. I,
Yeah.
I feel bad putting him in a bench role because it's not really going to do much for him. He's going to sit on the bench and what? "Quote unquote," learn and watch film. It doesn't do anything for him. He needs to play. And he's proven defensively, he's ready. He's good. Offensively, I mean, they're not even competitive at bats at this point. So yeah, he just needs to be in AAA and figure it out for 2025. We'll see you in spring. And hopefully by then you work out your new swing and your new patterns and rhythms and you're just ready to roll next March. But yeah, so that brings me to back to the other question. So do you try and pick off pieces from multiple teams or do you just do deals with one team? And I have three specifically mentioned. You've already mentioned the Royals with Michael Garcia. Well, you also need a starter and maybe a reliever. We've talked about on this show, I believe it was you and I, Seth Lugo, Carlos Estevez, Miguel Garcia. Could you package those three together? I mean, that's a blockbuster deal. You're going to have to give up a lot for that. Or the Diamondbacks, Suarez, Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen. Can you package something like that together? Or the team I'm kind of watching that I kind of love this trade wise. Joe Ryan from the Twins, the Twinkies. Joe Ryan, Johan Duran, Griffin Jacks, Willie Castro was rumored today by our friends over the Athletic. Shahad Sharma mentioned Willie Castro. And Brett Taylor, who did a write-up on this rumor, made a great point that Sharma doesn't really drop names just willy-nilly. So he had to have heard that at some point. And they also was reported they're looking for versatility. Willie Castro can play the outfield. He can play third base. He can play the middle infield. Kind of a perfect fit. And he was an all-star last year. And he's even better this year offensively. I kind of love the idea of Willie Castro. And you can one-stop shop because I got a lot of what you need. So my question to you, as I just rambled on there, do you one-stop shop? Okay. Twins, we're just going to give you all this. We'll take a bunch from you back. Call her a day. Or, okay, we'll take Suarez. We'll take Joe Ryan. We'll take this guy. And you make separate deals with different teams. Is there an advantage to doing one or the other?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to answer that question.
I don't think there is a right answer. I just wanted to throw it out there.
That's a really you when you started to ask the question, you were going through each of the teams. I was sitting there, I was like, I've never thought of it in this way. I'd love to sit here and give everyone an answer as to what's a better option. If I think about advantages, I mean, one team, you know exactly what probably all. I mean, geez, I don't even.
The only issue that I would throw at you is let's use the Twins.
Yeah,
As
I
an
want to hear. I
example.
definitely want to hear what you have to say on this because I'm sort of in an.
Yeah, no,
I can't think of anything.
It's kind of a weird question that I don't think
It
a lot of
is.
people ask. But
Yeah,
so
comment
let's say,
below. Please comment below, folks, because I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this question because this is different.
so the idea, basically, let's say it's one team. I said the Twins, but let's use the Diamondbacks because there's more concrete rumors there. So you want Suarez and Kelly, let's say. You get two things you desperately need. However, you're probably going to have to give up Owen Casey. You're probably going to have to give up Triantos. You're going to have to give up more from your top tier, right? Whereas if you go, okay, let's take Suarez from the Diamondbacks and let's take Estevez from the Royals. Maybe those teams don't value players a certain way. Maybe the Royals say for Estevez, they want Triantos straight up, or however they want to do that. And the Diamondbacks say, okay, for Suarez, we want Casey plus. I don't know that ultimately it makes a difference at the end of the day, but teams value players differently. So maybe the Royals don't value, or they value someone like Triantos more than they would Alcantara, say. They valued prospects differently. So is it easier to just pick off pieces from different teams? Or, hey, Diamondbacks, here's the deal. We'll do one trade with you. It'll be a massive trade, but you're probably going to have to give up Alcantara, Casey, buy a steroid, but more of those top prospects. Does that make any sense?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that the reasoning to do more of a like pick from each team sort of method is that idea behind evaluation of players.
Right.
Because if teams, generally speaking, if you have, let's say they view one player on the Twins versus the D-backs as similar players, but then they say the Twins, let's say they value him as a better asset than the D-backs are, even though they're both very, very similar players and similar contracts, then obviously the players you're going to give up are less. But having that across multiple players then is probably going to even itself out across all the prospects if you were just to deal with one exact team. So I guess that's my takeaway there. That is a fantastic question, and really sort of stuck on what my answer is there. But I appreciate you giving your insight, because honestly, I wouldn't have been able to answer that question without you saying that. And that got me thinking, okay, it makes a lot more sense on player evaluation, all those things. I will say this: Joe Ryan, Duran, Griffin Jackson, Willie Castro.
Oh,
I mean,
those are
you
four
would,
names. I'd love to have one of them out of
yeah,
those four.
yeah, no, you're not saying that the Cubs are going to try to get all four.
Well, they basically would just have to give up every minor league team they have and just have no minor league system.
Yeah, you would have you're talking at least 5-6 prospects, and
they might want Shaw or Horton with that too.
I would think, yeah,
maybe both.
That's insane.
Yeah, not all
throw
four.
something. We're not saying, folks, that that's even a possibility. I just wanted to clarify what he was saying, because it's again, names right now that again are on the bubble. If you saw Joe Ryan in the AllStar game,
Filthy.
Holy smokes, dude!
That dude's a dog.
Thank God we didn't see him in the Twins series.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? We didn't see him. We didn't see him because of Svesta, Simeon Woods Richardson.
Paddock was on Thursday.
And Paddock. We didn't get to see Ryan. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no, those are just names available. I'm not saying all four of those guys, but even for like two of those guys, say Castro and Griffin Jacks, you're probably still gonna have to pay up quite a bit. Yeah. So I guess that brings me to the third question of the burning questions I have. How big should the Cubs go at this deadline? Do you completely empty the clip here? And look, we have Kyle Tucker. It's 2025. This team is good. We know it's good. We're a little thin in a few key areas. How big do you go? How much are you willing to give up for this trade deadline specifically?
So so I will say that I personally don't think the Cubs are going to give up as much as people think. And here's why. The Cubs over the last year or so have made it clear that player development, building up a farm system, and having consistent success is something that they really value moving forward. And if you look back at what happened when they won the World Series, they won the World Series. Everybody would agree. Take that anytime over, take that over the fact that, the next 6 years, you really started to see a downturn with what they had, because their player or minor league system was depleted. And so the Cubs are trying to utilize their assets to the best of their ability for the long haul. And I think that's why they've kept some of the players that they have for as long as they have. So like a guy like Jackson Wiggins, I would be utterly shocked to see them get rid of Jackson Wiggins. I would be utterly shocked to see them get rid of Jefferson Rojas. Like some of these names that I think the Cubs really look at and say, look, we want to be an organization like the Dodgers, an organization, if you want to say it, like Milwaukee, where we aren't worried about calling a guy up and being a player that can provide value and not necessarily be a piece that we're likely needing to DFA in the next couple of weeks. So I personally think that they're not going to give up as much as people think. But again, if the Cubs they don't have the pitching and from the pitching side of things, they do not have the system they had like 2 years ago, since Horton and Ben Brown have started to make their way up top. Like Jackson Wiggins finally made it to the top 100, and it was like, thank God we finally have a pitcher in the top 100. So I personally don't see them giving up as much as people think. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
I think that you are correct. I don't know. Because I think with Suarez, look, I personally am talking myself out of it, not because I don't want him on the team. I just think the Yankees are more desperate. I think Milwaukee can smell blood in the water because, look, we're only a game up, but we're one of the best teams in the league. Milwaukee could take over the division, say, this weekend. Cubs got the red hot Red Sox coming in. I think they sense, oh, we're really, really good too. And we're a Suarez away offensively from being a real dynamo. So I just think there will be teams that are more desperate, which is kind of crazy looking at the Cubs third base situation to say someone else is more desperate at third. But I do think also, say they deal with Miami. We know they love Owen Casey. So Casey plus not crap, but versus guys you're not really thinking of, maybe that gets something done for Alcantara or Cabrera or something. So I do think it'll probably be less than what we're all planning in our heads. And I think we're all so, myself included, we are all, as Cub fans, so excited for this specific season because we are relevant again. Not only are we relevant, we are a kick-ass team. I think people are like, take it all. We want guys. Take it all. We want to win. And I totally get that thirst because I'm right there with y'all. But I do think you are correct when you say they've had a real emphasis on player development. Also, their draft was kind of odd, going really heavy outfield. I thought was strange, and then not really going after pitching. So I don't know if the plan is to trade for pitching, young controllable pitching. Maybe that's a glimpse into what they're planning on in 2 weeks. I don't know. I thought the draft was weird. So it would not shock me if we get a deal like, oh, they traded for player X. And we look at the trade like, oh my God, they gave up all that with the way they drafted. Because now the draft is a little more for need versus what it used to be, which is just let's throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Now these guys come up after a year, and like Paul Skeens or the kid in LA, I miss Christian Moore, who was drafted last year. He's been awesome for LA, for the Angels. So it's just, I don't know how far I would go personally, especially if Kyle Tucker's not here. If you empty your clip from the farm system, you lose your best player. Now what? You go out and sign Kyle Schwarber to a 2-3 year deal? Maybe. All right, that makes some sense. But bring him back? I don't know. I truthfully, I don't know what the answer is to that question. I'm glad I don't have to make it. I personally would try and win this season because you know you have a good team and you can win this season.
Cubs fans, in the comments below, I think this is an interesting question that I always love to ask. Let's say you can go all in this year, you win a World Series. Okay. We win the World Series, you have that. Are you one of those people that says, I'm taking that day in, day out, no problem? And then the next 8 to 10, call it next 6 to 7 years, we're all of a sudden back again into the downslide that we had from basically 2020 to 2023. I mean, seriously, these are the things that we have to think about. And I think the Cubs really saw what happened to them after the World Series, and they still had a few successful years. So maybe a dumb question. Everyone's going to be like, well, Ty, that's that duh. Like, you take the World Series, you don't know if you're ever going to have this shot again. I get that. Or do you want sustained success for the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say one versus giving yourself shots at multiple would kind of be the idea, if I'm hearing you right.
Yes.
I mean, you get one guaranteed versus the chance of several. Man, oh man, that's a real selfish choice. You know what? Maybe I'll make that the question of the day where we put the little setup man question in on every video. Maybe I'll make that the question of the day because that's a good hypothetical.
What do you do?
All right. All right, so we covered that already. Okay, so let's just very quickly wrap up our burning questions with, on a scale of 1 to 10, we mentioned them already. How worried about you? Let's try this in competent English now. How worried are you about those Michael Meyer-esque Milwaukee Brewers? According to Fangraphs, the Cubs have the easiest schedule in all of baseball remaining. Although it doesn't start easy. We got Kansas City, who's trying to make a run, in Boston, who's been red hot, 110 in a row. And the Brewers have the 10th hardest schedule remaining. Tie on a scale. Oh, and let's not forget, Cubs and Brewers play each other 8 more times, 5 of which are in 4 days. There was a rainout, so there was a doubleheader at the end of August during a 4-game stretch at Wrigley. Thankfully, it's at home. but you have a lot against the Brewers left. Tie on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not worried at all, 10 being you're scared out of your mind. How worried are you about the Michael Myers team up north?
I think I'm really starting to get very worried, and I'm going to say a 7. And my reasoning behind that is just how long of a run they've had since I think they were like, I can't remember what the actual number was, but they weren't doing so well, and then they turned it around. They're on a ridiculous run of some ridiculous stretch. They've had like over 30 wins in like the last, like, I don't know, like 50 days. It's 50 days or something like that. It's insane. I can't remember the stat. I might be absolutely butchering that, but they've shown to play well. I mean, they're against teams above 500. They're 28-22. The Cubs are 27-28. It's not that much of that large of a gap, but almost look at that. So, I mean, that's 6 more wins in essence of the actual record between both teams. The saving graces, I guess, is that they do have a tougher schedule, and can their pitching hold up with Mizorowski, Woodruff, and Peralta? Peralta is going to be a stud, but will Woodruff stay, at where he's at right now? Will he start to improve? Will Mizorowski continue to be the stud he is? He's looked pretty good as of lately. If you look at the schedule here, so Milwaukee has 31 games at home and 35 games away from home, and then it's flipped. The Cubs have 35 at home and then 31 games away. Series against above 500 teams right now, Milwaukee has 13. The Cubs have 11. So again, there's that little bit of a gap. But the key thing you bring up there is the fact that they play each other 8 times.
Yeah.
If you can split, that's ideal, in my opinion.
You have the tiebreaker in that case.
And then you'd have the tiebreaker. Exactly. The other thing, too, is like I look at like the series at home, like over the next couple of months, like I would say Milwaukee has 5, the Cubs have 6. There's little things here and there, but I tell you what, man, I look at the schedule for both teams. I get why the rankings say they are the way they are, but if they go out there and beat LA and Seattle and, a 2 out of 3 and 2 out of 3, like, then they have Miami, they'll have the Cubs, and they'll have Washington and Atlanta, right? So it's like, right there, they could have that easy stretch right after. They could, they have Chicago or the Cubs at home, or sorry, they're.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's in Milwaukee at the end of this month.
Milwaukee. So it's like, it's really not like that awful. Where it gets tough for them is when they're at Chicago for 5. They're facing San Francisco, facing Arizona, at Toronto, at home versus Philly. Like that's a kind of a rough stretch for them there. But again, it's not like it's just this team, man. They don't go away, and they play a style of baseball that's so hard to win against in this day and age of baseball that me saying a 7 is probably a little light. They're a good ball club, man. They're a really good ball club.
You said so. I'm at a 9, and let me tell you why.
Yeah,
because this team repeatedly, as you had mentioned, has continually taken our lunch money on a consistent basis. They run the bases well. They catch the ball. Their pitching is getting healthier. Their system is super deep. If they want Eugenio Suarez just to rub it in your face and to get a Cubs killer playing for them instead of you, they can go make that trade. They got top 100 prospects coming out of their ears. They can make any trade they want if they really want to, especially for a rental like Suarez or Zach Gallen. Who's to say they don't go after both? They might. Not that their rotation's been great. Who's to say they couldn't use a Zach Gallen at the back end of the rotation? It sure looked nice paired with Woodruff and Miz, right? I'm nervous because that team knows how to win. Maybe not in the postseason, but regular season. Consistent. Oh, is that a quick cheap shot? I'm so sorry, Milwaukee, for all you Brewers fans listening. But for real, though, this team knows how to win in the regular season. They know how to win a division. This Cubs team really hasn't even had that opportunity. 2023 maybe, but they fell apart. 24, it was disappointing last year, let's face it. And now this year you have a really good team, but guess what? They do too. And they're not going to go away. So when you go to their place at the end of the month, You have to at least win one of those games, bare minimum. Then they come to your place. You have to destroy them then and there because that is the end of your matchups together. Then you're relying on other teams. And the other thing is, you mentioned Arizona, Toronto, and all these teams. Toronto's not going to sell, but there's teams here that might sell. Who's to say the Giants don't fall off and are like, you know what? Let's sell some pieces. I doubt they do, but what if they do? These teams are going to look different. So while Milwaukee may have the quote unquote 10th easiest schedule, some of those teams might not look the same in a month. Maybe they sell and they're just kind of mailing it in the rest of the year. I'm a lot worried. Not even a little worried. I am a lot worried about that team from Milwaukee, and it kills me to say it, and I hate that I'm saying it, but that's our reality that we live in.
Yeah, and look, it's you look at the schedule, right? So you're saying, okay, so you have, like I said, you have 6 favorable series at home, right? Versus St. Louis, versus Washington, versus Pittsburgh, versus Cincinnati, versus Baltimore, and versus Kansas City, right? 18 games. You got to win probably 11 or 12 out of the 18 to really, really set yourself up for success.
Or to even keep pace.
You got to split with Milwaukee. Like they're right there. I mean, if you look at those numbers there, puts you at just around 40 games left. Then you got to grind it out. Those 40 games, that's where we need to make sure that those 40 games are covered with a new third baseman, a new starting pitcher or 2, preferably 2, and some bullpen help. And just find a way, guys. I mean, this schedule is just, it's so hard because Milwaukee just finds a way. And that's why it's like I sit here and I'm highlighting which series, we're favored and then which ones they're quote unquote favored versus not. And I'm like, you know what? They could probably still go to Atlanta. They could probably still at home against the Mets win 2 out of 3, no problem. And it's just, you just don't know. It's just so hard to predict this type of thing with this kind of baseball team with the Brewers. So, man, I tell you what, the Brewers talk that's happened on all the shows lately. It's extensive, but it's well earned because man, have they done great. So that's where I'm at, brother. That's where I'm at on the Brewers. It's just it's unfortunate we got to think about them. So.
I know we have to wrap up the show. We got to talk about Cubs Boston here, but can I just tell you, just having this conversation about Milwaukee, I can feel a visceral reaction in my body. I feel myself getting angry for no reason. I swear to God, this Milwaukee team brings this out of me. It's this nasty, ugly side, man. I know the Cardinals are supposed to have that effect. There's something about the Cardinals I just respect. There's something I just cannot stand about the Milwaukee Brewers.
Snickers, if you're listening, create a commercial that's Cub fans watching the TV at a local bar, couple old styles in hand, and they're going, "Gosh, the Brewers are right there." Have a Snickers. Am I far off?
I think that's perfect. And in fact, Snickers, big Snickers, if you're watching, how about a sponsorship? We just gave you a free commercial idea. So jot that down. All right. Now that we're done pitching ads,
my name's Ty Lewin, and this is the Disney Channel. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. The old Disney Channel. Is that even still a thing? It doesn't matter. Just go to Boston. All right. Cubs Boston. All right. Starting the break at home. Cubs start with the Boston Red Sox. They've won 10 in a row. Friday, 1:20. Lucas Giolito will open the second half, quote unquote second half, against Colin Ray. Giolito has had quite the stretch here in June. In 13 games this season, he's 6-1 with a 3.36 ERA. He didn't pitch till late April, but my oh my, has he turned it on. Speaking of things that have been turned on, Colin Ray, the 3.91 ERA on the season, and Cubs have won the majority of their games when he starts. And I'll tell you, I already mentioned Sunday's going to be a real tough one, especially if it's a bullpen game. You're going to need Colin Ray on Friday to perform like we know he can. Game 2, Fox's game of the week. It'll be Brian Bello, who is 6-3 for Boston with a 3.14 ERA in 91 and 2/3 innings pitched against fan favorite ace Shota Imanaga, who's also 6-3, 2.65 ERA and 68 innings pitched. And then Sunday could get ugly. 1:20 on Sunday, Garrett Crochet, arguably outside of Tariq Skubal, one of the best pitchers in the American League, 10-4 with a 2.23 ERA in 129 and a third innings pitched. And the Cubs have yet to announce that. So keep your eye on that for Sunday. But, Ty, it ain't going to be an easy start to the quote-unquote second half. So what are your expectations for the series against Boston?
I don't know if you mentioned already, it looks like Alex Bregman is going to be coming back for the
I
Red
didn't
Sox as
mention it, but
well.
of course,
So,
sure.
that there was reports out there that said that. So I'm going to take it as he's going to be in the lineup on Friday, which is just glory be to God. 13-1 in their last 14. The Red Sox have been on an absolute heater. I know this is a Cubs podcast, but want to give credit to where credit's due. The Red Sox have been great. And if I'm looking at the series, I'd love to win 2 out of 3, but might not be the worst thing to try to just split this, home sort of schedule we have here against them and Kansas City over the next 6 games. So looking at the Red Sox. So as everybody knows, Rafael Devers was traded from the Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. That whole storyline, if you're interested in learning about that, just type in Rafael Devers traded to San Francisco. They'll give you the full breakdown on all the issues that went around that situation. And so since Devers was traded on June 15th, they are 17-9. They have quite a few of young prospects that were highly touted. Of course, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, but they've really started to get some contributions from guys that I think, first off, nobody, if you're just a regular baseball fan, have any idea. So Ceddanne Rafaela is just absolutely been on a tear. He has a 1,307 OPS in his last 12 games. He also had an 870 OPS in June. So that's one. Roman Anthony, like I mentioned, a 931 OPS in July. He's that really highly touted prospect that all Red Sox fans were wondering why he wasn't up earlier. But another name that's sort of just like, what? Romy Gonzalez, a 1,286 OPS in July, 917 OPS in June. And here's the kicker. He has a 1,201 OPS and 69 at-bats against lefties. So we're definitely going to see him on Saturday against Shota. And hopefully the wind is maybe doing maybe some wonders for the Cubs and blowing in that day, because that would be kind of nice, because I don't want to see Romy Gonzalez on the MLB Network postgame show later that night. So look, this team over the last 7 days, I mean, you're talking OPSs of 1,200, 911, 910, 892, 853, 833, 800. I mean, they've hit the ball hard. They've pitched tremendously. And it's a team that has all of a sudden, when we thought all of Boston was about to just try to find Breslow and kick his ass in a parking lot, has now completely turned around their season. They're all of a sudden a buyer at the deadline. Yep. Now people are talking about them going after some of the big names, which when the Devers trade went down, everybody thought we are now going to be on a downspin for the next 3 years. I mean, literally, that's what Boston Red Sox fans thought. So look, they're a great squad. Pitching-wise, Giolito has been a great name to follow this year. He's been unbelievable in his last 5 to 6 starts. Yeah. We're going to have to find a way. Brian Bayo has been in the organization for quite some time with the Red Sox, sort of this up and down career thus far. He's had a fantastic year. You're going to have to find a way, because Sunday is going to be, I mean, guys, I know we got to see Tarek Skubal. I know we got to see Paul Skeens in the AllStar game. But dear Lord Almighty, Garrett Crochet is legit, and the extension he got is worth every dollar. I mean, the trade that was made, I don't think the White Sox got even back near the haul that Garrett Crochet would have, that Garrett Crochet would get now. I mean, he is an unbelievable arm. And so, look, hopefully, we're able to win 2 of 3. Again, the next 6 games, just try and split between just go 3-3. If you can go 4-2, that's fantastic. Just don't go under 500 the next 6, because when we play Milwaukee, I don't want to be sort of in this little bit of a downspin, right? So let's look here. So we go, versus Boston, versus KC, and then we're at the White Sox. So excuse me. So you can split the next 6 games, and then you win 2 out of 3. You're above 500 in this 9-game stretch before Milwaukee. I would love to see that. Against the White Sox, you can easily sweep. But again, I think if you get above 500 in the next 9 games, we're looking pretty solid. But it's gonna be a tough stretch here. I mean, Kansas City's still trying to fight to get in the playoffs as well. So you're gonna have 6 gritty games here that the Cubs are gonna have to figure out to win. And I hope that PCA and Tucker are coming back. They're sleeping well in their bed. They're not staying out till 5 o'clock in the morning because they can basically go anywhere now in Chicago and be loved. So please, just dial it in on Friday. Be ready to go, because if you don't have everything dialed in, next thing you know it, you're 0-2 in the series, and then you're possibly going to get swept by Carrick Crochet. That's how crazy this series can get in just like that.
Yeah. And I know we'll talk about the Kansas City series on Sunday when we come back, but that Kansas City series also is really important for you, because say you win 2 out of 3, say you sweep them, that just gives them more reason to sell at the deadline. And they got a lot of pieces. We talked about Mikel Garcia, who AllStar this year would love to have playing third base. Seth Lugo, it's another guy you'd love to have. Maybe a twofer. But that's the Kansas City series. Focus on what's in front of you. 1 pitch, 1 out, 1 inning at a time. And that's going to do it for us here on The Setup Man. So enjoy the rest of your All-Star break. Go rest up, fans, because guess what? Come Friday, 1:20, you're going to have to strap in, because we are in for one hell of a ride. Go relax. Go watch the new Superman movie. Whatever you got to do. By the way, would recommend the Superman movie. Just my thought. Anyway, Ty's like, what? Superman? Anyway, go enjoy the All-Star
Free
break.
advertising. Gee.
Heck yeah. I love that movie. I know a lot of people didn't, but that's besides the point. All right, let's end the show. We're going to go ice out. We will see you Sunday night. We'll be back. We'll recap the Boston series. And with that said, thank you for watching. We will see you Sunday night. Have a good one, Setup Nation.